I think that's really interesting because the thing that how I got into my one, and that's why I wanted to talk with you about this, because we're very similar. And I said it to you before, that's why I was interested in bringing you on, is it's like a looking back 3.5 years or whatever, 4 years, and going, oh, that's when it started. Like for me, like when I very first started doing it, is I just wanted to answer. Like I found that my topic was boring in my head, quote unquote boring. You know, everyone would say, "Oh, you don't want to talk about that. Don't want to talk about that." But I kept feeling that everywhere I went, I kept getting asked questions. As you said, I couldn't go for a drink or I couldn't go for a meal without sitting down with a friend or a family member, and they go, "Oh, Ash, do you mind if I? What's this mean? And what's that mean?" So I thought, well, it's obviously not boring. It's just not sexy. People aren't. It doesn't draw crowds, but it's intriguing. People need to know it. And as you said, I jumped online and I started to research, and nobody was doing it. Just nobody. And now, obviously, Alex Kerr is killing it on YouTube, and looks his videos are beautiful. But he wasn't doing anything back then. And you're right, the content was just terrible. And I love the stuff you've said, which is what my thing was keep it below. Mine was always keep it below a minute. So I had this thing about keeping it below a minute as like bite-sized chunks. And what I started to realize was it compounds, because people start to watch it, listen to it, and I think it was an incredible thing. The one mistake I made, and I'm happy to say that now, I'm happy to say I make loads of mistakes. One mistake,
we all do.
The million mistakes I made. The thing that I made was I should have, and I definitely should have used YouTube first. I should have gone onto YouTube. I should have made YouTube my platform, because I didn't, and I had like 3 years worth of content that I never ever I can't get back, and that's quite interesting for me. So it'd be really interesting to hear from you, Ash. Why did you pick YouTube? Why did you go? I know you said it's a search engine, but why did you go YouTube is the place? Because many brokers, many advisors, and many people I speak to, and just business owners in general, are quite fearful of YouTube, because I was. You know, there's a lot of myth and it's hard, it's tough, it wouldn't work. Why did you go after YouTube? What bypassed that thought process for you?
Because YouTube, I mean, everybody knows YouTube. You know, that's what I feel. Everybody knows YouTube. Even my little 3-year-old now, he knows YouTube. He's been saying the word YouTube even before I think he said daddy. You know, and he can even operate and watch his stuff on YouTube and things like that. So I think the level of influence, you know, YouTube has is unbelievable. And the other thing is now, you know, we've got live TV. How many people do really watch, you know, live, other than live sports? How many people are actually watching a show when it's actually airing for the first time? That's why you got a lot of these streaming services, you know, blown out of proportion, things like that. So that's why, you know, I looked at it. People can access content at any time. Even someone wakes up 3 a.m. in the middle of the night with a question on their head about, I don't know, development loans or bridging. They can say, "Oh, let me look at Ash Ajaz's video 3 a.m. I can't sleep without answering that question." But I'm just saying, like, it's the accessibility to the people and how well known YouTube is, and it's worldwide. So you're not limited to your area or geography. It's worldwide.
Yeah.
And also, you put your stuff on YouTube, and from YouTube you can then share it on various outlets and things like that. So that's why I chose YouTube and the power of it. And I've always been a great follower of YouTube myself, and I've always been watching videos of YouTube, God knows for how long, don't even remember. I'm just like, hey, why not me? Why not me getting out there and doing that?
So what other platforms would you say are in your kind of choices right now? What ones would you would say that you are currently like interested in? You know, there's so many out there. Are you interested in Clubhouse?
Yeah.
Are you interested in?
I'm learning about Clubhouse. I don't even know what that is.
I could do a whole thing on Clubhouse. You know, I don't really know how I feel about it, if I'm completely honest with you. So we'll save that for another
Another day.
Another day, I think, with Clubhouse. I can't make a judgment call on it. It's really hard. But like, you know, where else are you choosing to build, you know, quote, like I say, quote unquote, build your house? Where are you choosing to build that house in regards to your business on social media?
I'm really proactive on LinkedIn because of, you know, the professional from side of things. So LinkedIn is working out really good for me to, you know, present, because obviously my content is, you know, property related, finance related, and I feel LinkedIn is a great platform for us. I'm also using Instagram as well.
Yeah.
So Instagram stories and Instagram feeds. Also on LinkedIn now they have stories, so I use, you know, the stories. Facebook, I'm using that again, the feeds and the stories, and I've got like my own business page on there too. Also on WhatsApp as a status. So when you can upload video or links on WhatsApp status, I'm using that. I'm also now what I'm starting to do again, you know, becomes a full-time job, obviously, just doing your social media, you know, 24/7. I'm converting a lot of the video content into podcasts and stuff. And I'm uploading those at podcasts. So if there's people who, you know, don't want to look at my face on YouTube, they can close their eyes and listen to the YouTube, or they could be in a car. I don't know where they are, but that's an option also available as well. So those are the main ones that I'm using right
I think that's really important to actually identify there for anyone who's listening to that and who's watching. And this is the point I'm going to make with the point you've just done. For me, when I first started, I found it very difficult to identify that there was a lot of everyone I was speaking to and every research I did would tell me that live is really, really useful. You need to go live. You need to go live. You need to have a YouTube channel. You need to have a podcast. That were the three things I kept being told all the time. And I realized what I started to do was go, which is interesting what you're saying there. And that's one for my listeners and for people watching, is I'd sit down and it would stress me out to the max every week, because I'd think, okay, so what am I going to talk about in my podcast? Well, my podcast is going to be for interviews, and then my YouTube channel is going to be like 5 tip videos, which is obviously the type of stuff that you do, like 5 tip videos. And then I was like, and then I've got to go live. What do I do there? You know, and I was thinking, how do I do it? And I had a guy called James Burt on the show, and he's he's called the Podcast King. That's his name, and he knows like Grant Cardone, he knows all these big people, and he's killing it on Clubhouse right now. But he came on, and then we spoke after, and he was saying again a similar thing. What we were chatting about was, he was like, you need to realize that it's a volume game, and also, what is the podcast for? And he got me thinking. He was like, what are you using it for? And I started thinking, he was like, well, actually, exactly. We said then, I wanted the show, and it made my life so much easier. The show is the value. How you consume it doesn't really matter. That's what people don't get, is that they're like, I'm on YouTube. Realistically, the thing that's on YouTube can be a podcast and it can be a live show. So that's like, all of a sudden it flipped a switch in my head where every day I go live, that live goes to YouTube, that YouTube goes to the podcast. And now it's wonderful because it's opened up a whole world of opportunities. My downloads have gone through the roof. But also what people have said is, I love it because no matter where I am, no matter what I'm doing, I can jump in and watch it live. I can watch it on demand on YouTube, or I can listen to it in my car or on my run. And I think you're doing the right thing there, because people are not doing that. They're still, I think, dividing those platforms. And I personally don't think that is a smart move in 2021 and moving forward for the next 5 years. I think that people are going to do this cross-platform distribution of long-form content. What do you think on that?
Yeah, definitely. I agree 100%. So when I first started, obviously the YouTube channel, and started becoming really, really proactive with it, I mean, just to educate myself, the thing with me is, anything I want to do, I feel like in my heart, I want to be the best at it, you know, or I want to be better than that guy. Or when, you know, I love, you know, watching other people, and I always try and pick out something great from that video. Oh, I love that. And every video I'm trying to improve from the last time, something different, something different. Sky's the limit when it comes to until you're making Hollywood movies or something like that. Your videos come out looking like that. Long way from that. But so I started watching a lot of these tutorial videos, and YouTube has this whole library about, I think, YouTube Academy, where you can watch videos. So initially, I didn't know much. I learned so many of these basics, and then I started implementing this thing. I was taking notes and, things like that.
Mm.
And one of the things it said is, if YouTube is what you want to draw your audience to, use all the different outlets to draw the audience, and there's various strategies you can. So one of the things I started doing, which I noticed it worked for me, initially on Instagram, I was posting the entire episode, like 2 minutes, 3 minutes long, and everything, and it would go on like IGTV and all that sort of stuff. So initially, they're great. And then I said, you know what? Is it really gonna draw traffic to my YouTube, or people will just watch this video? So one of the things I started doing, I just started like either making bite-size chunks of the video, or just like separating just the initial bit, and then I would post it, and then it would leave the client with a bit of curiosity, and then I'll just write, okay, to watch the full episode, please, go to the link in the YouTube channel and stuff. So I kind of like tried to use that as a strategy to bring an audience to the YouTube, and then getting them to obviously subscribe and stay, and obviously share. So that was one of the things I tried.
I think that's a really good idea. That's what Alex Kerr does. And that's what I like. I YouTube and my podcast are the two main ones. Really, YouTube is 2021's focus. And all that was advice from Alex Kerr was bring them in. That's exactly what he said. You've got to bring them into that channel. You have to make it crystal clear where you want them to be. And it's interesting. It is interesting how that works. So one thing I wanted to ask you, how obviously building a personal brand, building content, building all this stuff, it looks super easy from outside in, or it looks super difficult, but depending on people's perspective. But what have been some of the challenges you face? What have been some of the hard things you've kind of been like, oh, do you know what? This has been really difficult, because it's not all sunshine and rainbows. And I like to say this to people all the time. It's not. And there are lows, and there are moments where I'm like there are moments where, for me, 9 times out of 10, there's a lot of things, obviously insecurities, imposter syndrome. But for me, like, it's new tech. Like, if new tech lands on my desk, I'm freaking out because I don't like MailChimp. I can do it now, but I was like, and also like scaling. So there are some struggles when it comes to doing content creation and building a personal brand, because that's really what you're doing. What have been some of the things you've faced, and what advice would you give to people who are doing that at this point? So what have been some of your struggles first, and then advice?
I think initially just knowing and creating that super quality, I think. And as you said, the tech bit, not knowing the technology. So I had to then say, okay, so how do I remedy that? I had to educate myself. The key thing when you're trying to create content, so someone asked me this question, it's like, what is the key? What keeps you going? Like, how you've been able to do so well, or something like that. I think the key is also commitment. You have to be 100% committed to this, because you want to stay consistent. I see people, they'll post like, so much content, and then they just disappear. And then the audience will disappear. So you gotta stay consistent. In order to stay consistent, you have to commit 100%. And when it comes to the commitment, again, when you get a family, especially when you got a young family like mine, trying to juggle all those things, especially during lockdown when everybody's home. Biggest challenge for me is find a quiet corner in the house to record a quality video with no baby noises in the back. That's been my biggest challenge. So I think I was speaking to someone, and they said that to me. They're like, yeah, I had to record a video outside in the freezing cold because my kid was doing school lessons inside. I'm like, hey, man, good on you. So that was like the biggest challenge. But then, slowly also the technology bit. I use, like green screen in my videos. So I had green screen in a somewhere. This is a funny story.
Just quickly with green screen. Do you actually have this is something? So I have a green screen. Not here. I don't use it anymore. But I have a green screen. Do you actually use a green screen, or do you just use software?
I use a green screen.
And that's why yours are really good then. I was going to say, because the way, like, I was thinking you must have to use a green screen in order to make it look clear, because it's a green screen works perfectly. My experience of green screen has always been perfect when I use a green screen. I've got an Elgato green screen pop-up, cost me like nearly 200 quid, but it's wonderful piece of kit.
Yeah.
But it, like, when I see a lot of people on Zoom and they use that, I'm like, oh no, don't
breaking up, and
yeah, like,
you lose credibility, I think, as a creator when you have stuff like that. And that's so simple. How much did that green sheet cost?
Well, exactly. Like, it depends on what you want. Like you say, a green sheet is not a lot of money at all. It's more about, like, the one I bought is purely a Space Saver one. So it's like a proper, like, it's the pop-up ones, they go, and then like the whole thing. But I think if you're going to use green screen, it's just interesting. I wanted to ask your opinion on that, because I'm a big advocate of green screen. I used it for like a year of my first content was all green screen. Well, my first content was on my dining room table. Then I moved to green screen because it created a consistent look. I didn't have an office like this, so I couldn't have a space. And you do green screen very well, which I said when you were on your call, I was like, oh, that's really, really good. But 90% of the ones I see when they're like Zoom, and like you said, if you move and it all goes, and you're like, oh no, just don't have it. It's easier not to have it.
Exactly, easier not to have it. And I'll tell you a funny story about it. So before even I did the very first video, I was like, you know what, it has to be good, because that first one is gonna make it or break it.
Yeah.
So you don't know how long it took me to research. I'm the type of person, I guess, when maybe I could call myself a perfectionist or something. I take a lot of time in deciding on things a lot of the time. So in order to even decide on what I want as a bright background, and then creating that background, like you see my logo there and the channel icon and stuff like that, it took me a while to decide on the back. So this is me. This is what one day I would want to create as a real office for me. So that's the dream. So a funny story with the green screen was, so I bought the green screen. I was doing I watched videos about it and stuff like that. You learn as you go on, and I made this green screen. I bought this, and I think the only room initially I could record videos was my conservatory, which has amazing light, everything. It was winter, so I put the green screen, lovely videos initially, and But as we started getting to the summer months, my conservatory becomes like 200 degrees in the summertime. So on some videos, I was like opening the window, and then there was a lot of background noise, and that was like getting in the way. I'm like, man, this can't work now. We can't record in the conservatory anymore. So that's when I bought that big pop-up stand, and obviously, put it on and you shoot the video. But yeah, I've loved green screen from day one. I think you've got it in green screen.
It's a game changer, I think. If you haven't got a purpose-built space, like, obviously I'm a big advocate of purpose. Obviously, like, that was my dream, was to have, talk about your office. My dream was to have a purpose-built space where I could be like, like, where I could take over, like, I could have my little spaceship, so to speak. Because obviously, as you say, a young family, like my wife and kid, that takes over the entire house. If that's their house, and I just pay. And then this is my house, which is a small room. But I get, like, I think the green screen adds that sense of, it just looks really good if you're willing to put the time and effort in for it. It all depends on different people. So where could people, if they want to connect, because I'm very conscious of time, we've been chatting for a while, and you've got some serious value. If people wanted to connect with you, where is the best place to do that? If they want to work with you, they want to learn more about what you do or ask questions, where can they go? Where's the best place to go?
I'm available, as I mentioned earlier, on all various social media platforms, but best one would be YouTube, as we're talking about it. Ash Ajaz. You search Ash Ajaz or Ash's Top 5, which is the name of my channel. You can find my videos there, and you can, connect there. You can find me on LinkedIn, again, Ash Ajaz, and we can connect there, or Instagram or Facebook. I'm available everywhere. It's Ash Ajaz.
You're absolutely everywhere, which is very good.
Everywhere. I haven't broken into TikTok yet, but I don't know.
You'll get there. You'll get there.
It's a lot of
One thing I wanted to ask just before we round this all off. The last question I'll ask: personal branding. Personal branding is a funny word. No one really understands what it means. I've spent years, and it's my life's now becoming my life's work to define what personal branding is. For you, very quick, one sentence or two, a couple of sentences. What does personal branding mean to you?
Personal brand to me is it's kind of like there's a room full of people and someone mentions your name. What is the first image or word that pops into someone's head when your name is mentioned? And to me, that is your personal brand.
That's like a mic drop moment. That's what I wanted to do there. I realized I can't grab my mic and drop it because then it's all attached to an arm. But I was going to go boom.
Invisible mic.
Yeah, it is like a mic drop. I love it. Ash, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Like, it really has. Like I say, I absolutely, guys, if you're listening to this, if you've been watching this, please, 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 please go and connect with Ash. He's an absolute legend. He, I think if you would see from someone who's been doing it on this, it's like, say, a year that you've been creating content for your business, and it is really good. It's really high quality. Your delivery is very clear. And I think you've got amazing things ahead of you in the future in regards to personal branding. So it's been an absolute pleasure, Ash, for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.